Hey guys, welcome to Dogforge. My name's Paul, and today we'll be going through Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse and the races they present to us. First off, we'll be taking a look at the Bugbear, and how this is going to work is that we'll go through the stat blocks as it's presented to us, what it was originally in its source material. In this case it will be Volo's Guide to Monsters, and then we'll provide some overall commentary on the changes and potential combinations you can use it with. So jumping straight into it, and you're going to see that the art is different. I'm not. So just for context, not all races received new art for this book. The Bugbear clearly did, and it presents a much more savage looking, with all the spikes, and more low-tech primitive version of the Bugbear. I mean, it's this particular Bugbear is essentially just wearing primarily wrapped hides and the skulls of their enemies, and the face itself has taken on a very troll-like appearance. I'm not particularly fond of this. I think it heavily departs from the Bugbear as we know them, and it makes them seem more squat, whereas Bugbears are meant to be, yes, big and powerful, but kind of lanky, if anything. I mean, right here, long of limb, but, I mean, those legs don't look long to me. Anywho, jumping straight into it, and of course we have some of the standard changes going forward. So the ability scores have changed. You can now have any +2 or +1 you want, or 3 +1s of your choice. This was originally a +2 strength and a +1 dex. The language is common, and one that your DM agrees is appropriate for the campaign, whereas this was originally common and goblin. And this is probably going to be one of the weirder things. So most are of the humanoid type, but they have clearly gone a different way in general with bugbears. And here we have basically everyone's a human. So we are a humanoid, but you can see some keywords popping up here. You are also considered a goblinoid for any prerequisite or effect that requires you to be a goblinoid. I cannot think of any feats or spells or anything really that would apply to this, so I don't know if they have something in the works or if this is merely a blanket statement for forward thinking in case they want to use this for something. Your size is medium, of course. Walking speed 30 feet, unchanged. Dark vision 60 feet, exactly the same. This is where we begin to depart Fey ancestry. You have advantage on saving throws to make you avoid or end the charmed condition on yourself. So they're really leaning into goblins and hobgoblins and bugbears coming from the Feywild, and this is just a straight up additional feature. So charmed itself is not make or break, but the charmed condition often has a lot of riders on top of it when it's used in different places. An example of this would be like the dominate person or dominate monster spell. And so this is a nice additional defense to have, but this is just straight on top of what they had before. Long limbed, when you make a melee attack on your turn, your reach increases for 5 feet. It's important that it's just on your turn, so this doesn't actually affect your attacks of opportunity. Having a greater reach can actually be a bad thing in terms of attacks of opportunity, as you give the monsters more space to work around you. This is exactly the same. Powerful build, exactly the same. Sneaky. So this used to just be the stealth proficiency, and you still get stealth proficiency. However, you are also now semi-liquid. You can now, without squeezing, move through and stop in a space large enough for a small creature. This is kind of weird. This is kind of like something you might expect from a Yuan-Ti, maybe, with collapsible bones and whatnot. For a creature that should be tall, powerful, it's a little odd. But it is, again, additional to the original version and just a straight bump in, I guess we'll call this, power. Now, the big difference here is surprise attack. So I'm going to actually read the original one first from Volo's guide, and it is, if you surprise a creature and hit it with an attack on your first turn in combat, the attack deals an extra 2d6 damage to it. You can use this trait only once per combat. And this was awful. The surprise condition is incredibly reliant on the DM, and then separately from that the circumstances. And then on top of that, you can only use it once per combat. That has heavily changed to, if you hit a creature with an attack roll, the creature takes an extra 2d6 damage if it hasn't taken a turn yet in the current combat. So if you beat a creature in initiative, you just get 2d6 on your damage to every attack you make on that turn. This is, at first you might think, oh cool, this is outright just bananas. So let's go through some examples of how this could be used. Like a very out-of-the-box way of doing this would be to be a fighter. If you're a fighter, particularly a dex-based fighter, that may or may not have also taken the alert feat with all those extra ASIs, then you, at 5th level and higher, have your 2 attacks. And then you can action surge for another 2 attacks. And that's an additional 8d6 or a fireball's worth of damage from this feature. And it's 2d6, like, if you crit, that is a substantial amount of damage on any of those attacks as well. This goes also for monks. Monks would be fantastic for this with martial arts attacks and flurry of blows. Gloomstalker rangers, they are almost built to be bugbears now, or bugbears are almost built to be gloomstalkers, I should say, as you're going to get a wisdom bonus to your initiative, and on your first turn you'll get an additional attack that gets additional damage. So that's 3 attacks at 5th level and onwards that can get 2d6, and 2 levels of fighter that becomes 6 attacks for 2d6 per attack for 12d6 at as early as 7th level. This, particularly when you combine this with some of the other creatures that have been updated, like the kobold, which we will get to, this is absolutely insane. The Bugbear overall has been a huge winner from this book. This feature alone is a huge improvement, and kind of makes you think, what were they thinking? The addition to Sneaky is a little weird, but again, just additional. And then Fey Ancestry is, they're very much pushing the goblins in a certain direction, but this is just an additional defense. So, whether or not you were a fan of the Bugbear before, it is pretty undisputed, or undisputable, I think right now, that the Bugbear is probably one of the more potent and powerful melee just races of choice at all. No matter what melee character you want to play, it's probably going to be better off being a Bugbear. And that is a very weird statement to say, because before it was just the reach, really. But now, especially dex-based characters, or somebody that can afford the alert feat or has an additional bump to their initiative from, say, Swashbuckler, Gloomstalker, War Wizard, it's a sign of things to come, I think. Overall, you can describe this book as, let's say, power creep, and as much as I'm very surprised by this, I have to say I'm a little excited to try it and just drop all of those d6s. But that's enough of me rambling on about these crazy changes. What do you think about the new Bugbear? Do you prefer the old Bugbear? Are you looking forward to getting to try it out in combat, or are you avoiding it for some reason? Let us know in the comments section down below. Subscribe if you haven't done already, and like this video if you liked it. I've been Paul. Until next time, I'll see you at the Forge.